Good morning, Giulio. Good morning,
Morning.
everyone on stage and in the audience. We're live here in the headquarters of Medelhan in beautiful Brera. I'm Romain Casella, the founder and director of the communication agency May Concepts. I'm delighted to moderate today's hybrid event initiated by the Swiss Arts Council, Pro Helvetia, and hosted by the design business platform Medelhan. We have the honor to welcome the great Giulio Cappellini as the ambassador of this wonderful project. Design Switzerland Matchbox is an initiative that supports 8 emerging Swiss design studios with unique and promising visions. The objective is to strategically connect key industry players with these studios and help their international growth through Medelhan's large business network. Each designer has been offered individual coaching sessions, together with the opportunity to create professional assets for their communications, alongside refining their pitching skills. Every studio will be strategically matched with relevant companies to attend one-to-one meetings in the next couple of months. So we will get to meet and discover these 8 Swiss designers. But let's start with our ambassador today, Giulio Cappellini, il maestro del design. So Giulio, good to see you in person
My
after
pleasure.
quite some time.
Yeah.
How are you doing?
Well, thanks. Yes, busy period, and all of us we are working on this new renaissance that we hope will start quite soon. Because I think that really uh, all of us we want to be back to reality, no? And so I think that at the moment there is a lot of energy, and I think that so we are working a lot thinking to the next future.
Yeah, we're actually, very much looking forward to Milan Design Week coming
Yeah.
back in September. What do you
Yeah,
think?
because we miss the Salon del Mobile and the Design Week
Yeah.
since 2 years right now, no?
Mm.
And okay, for sure, during this period, we had a lot of virtual communication, meetings, and so. But again, when we speak about objects, when we speak about furniture, people they want to also see, they want to touch, they want to sit on it, and so. So I think that again, during this period, many things change, and mostly communication, because really the companies that in the past they were used just to do fairs or just real exhibition, now we understood that there are two different ways to communicate. On one side, the real communication, on the other side, the virtual communication, and I think that more and more in the future we will work with both. No, now speaking about the next September, the Salone Mobile really is a big question point. No, that means that we don't know exactly what is going on. If I think that we hope that we will have here in Milan, people from all over Europe. For sure, I think that we will not have people, or maybe very, very few people from North America or from the Far East. But anyway, so the Salone Mobile is organizing a fair in a completely different way than in the past. And also the Fuori Salone in the city, there will be a lot of events. So the companies, they are going to present new stuff in their showroom and so and so. On one side, okay, this changement is due to the actual situation. On the other side, I think that the concept of fairs, like they were in the past, is an old concept. I think that this pandemic period really gave an acceleration to some problems that already were in the air. So I think that really is this September is a big exercise, because next step it will be, we hope, April 2022, and so this September I think that it will be a sort of exercise of this new way to present the products, to present the designers, to present everything that is new to the world. And so it will be a mix on one side of real presentation, on the other side of virtual presentation. And again, so if you think to do just a presentation, if you think to do an installation, is one thing if you do this installation only to be seen in real. And it's another story if, okay, on one side, you will have some people looking in real to this exhibition or to this installation, and on the other side, if you have to transmit this concept worldwide in a virtual way.
Mhm.
So there is, as I told before, a lot of energy in there. I think that all of us, we are working a lot because we want to show to the world that the design is still alive
Yeah,
and no virus can kill design.
and
Absolutely.
creativity. And how do you think that, for instance, virtual platforms, digital platforms like Medelhan, for instance, connecting professionals with each other? Obviously, completely agree with you. We can't wait to all be together and
Sure.
spend some time, etc. How do you feel this digital world can also kind of complement or support the physical events?
I think absolutely. This is today, this is tomorrow. Because anyway, as I was telling before, this changement was already in there. And I think that really today the most important thing is really now communicate worldwide at the same time. Because in the past, for example, for Italian design companies, to export, it was just to sell a few things in Switzerland, in Germany, or in England, and that's it. Now the market is the world, no? And so this concept, this idea of communication in a real time is absolutely very important because if in the past maybe something was happening in Milan right now and in New York after 2 months or maybe
Yes.
2 years,
Yeah.
now everything is going on at the same time
True.
worldwide. And so this is, I think, the big change. And I think that this kind of platform that can really connect different worlds together is absolutely very important because also, you know, for design industries, the market has completely changed. In the past, it was just only through stores, through distributors, through showrooms, with windows on the street. Now, really, again, the market is completely changed. The contract market is really growing a lot, a lot. I think that also during this period, no, the market that is growing more is not the residential market. Also, if maybe people now they spend more time at home, and so they understand maybe the chair that they use is not comfortable, and they need a new chair
Yeah.
because they work on the chair, but the chair
Yeah.
has not to look like an office chair, and so and so. So really, many things are changing also residential, but the main changement is in public spaces, from offices to hospitality to lounges to airports, and so this is a huge changement, and I think so is a huge challenge for the furniture industry and for designers just to try to understand the new needs of the end consumers and to try to give the right answer. So I think that really these platforms are absolutely very, very important to create this sort of connections.
You were talking about these new challenges, you know, the public spaces, residential, new needs kind of happening. I mean, whether they are like short term or long term. In 2021, which is, you know, the roaring 20s, you know, we're
Yes.
entering a new era. What kind of top qualities would you then expect, you know, as an entrepreneur, as a brand owner? What kind of top qualities would you expect from emerging designers?
But you know, I
these
think
days?
that today, first of all, we have to be quick to try to give the right answers to the needs of the end consumer on one side. On the other side, I think that really we don't need of new products in the market because in the market we have already really thousands or of good products. We need of new concepts, we need of new ideas, and we need to build new landscapes, residential and for public spaces. For example, no, normally in the past, we are used to see maybe in an office or in a restaurant just 100 people. Now, in the same space, we see 50 people. The problem is that anyway, this sort of spaces they have to be anyway good, nice. That means I don't like to go in a restaurant to have the idea that is more or less empty, and that I don't like to work in an office that it seems dead. No, so I think that this today this mean that's mean to with the new rules that are not only for today, they will be for the future to really to build these new landscapes. And for sure, in this landscape, we have products, we have tables, we have chairs, we have couches, we have cabinets, and so and so. But I think that really, so this idea of new concept is really very, very important. And today, mostly when we think to the public spaces, no, again, can be offices, can be hospitality, and so on, there is a huge changement, no? A huge changement in the use of colors, in the use of materials, in the use of lights, in the use of the space. No? Today we need of more fluid spaces. Today we need of more of spaces that they can change very easily.
More
The
agile,
images,
yeah.
yes. And so this is again a huge challenge for people that are involved in design. So today, to do design is not only to design a table, a chair, a lamp, or a couch. Today is to try to make a product and to try to imagine this product in an environment.
Very interesting. How then do you think younger designers, new design studios can then bring something on the table of interest to big brands and big companies? What do you think the designers?
I think really that good and new ideas are always welcome. No, thinking to the big brands, I think that we have two different way to work. No, there are some big brands that they want to be safe, so really they don't want to take risks, they don't want to experiment, and they prefer to say, okay, I prefer to work with established designers or architects and so on. On the other side, there are worldwide, and not only in Italy, but worldwide, some companies that all the time they like to work to be contemporary. And today I think that to be contemporary, it means to work always on innovation. And so really this company, they like to take risks and they like to give really the possibility to young designers to express their ideas and to to start from ideas and to arrive to products. No? Sometimes this process, it takes months, sometimes it takes years. Sometimes from the first idea, you change many things before to arrive to the final product, or maybe sometimes you work a lot on a prototype and after you don't arrive to do the final product. But anyway, it's a first step for a cooperation. So the thing that I can tell is that, okay, to the young designers, do few things, but do good things. First of all, it's very important to understand what there is and to know what there is in the market, because not to do something that is already in the market, but also, looking at what is going on in the market, you can take also inspiration for your project. And second, really to follow this project like a baby, from the first idea to the final product. To do design today is not only just to make a nice render or a nice prototype. No, it's really to start from the first idea, from the first concept until the communication. So really the role of designers today is really super wide. And when you get in contact with the brand, it's very important really to establish the right feeling with all the team of the company, from the R&D development to the commercial people, to the people that are taking care of communication and so on. So it's a team work. And they think that this is, again, a new way to work. And they think that really, so many companies are open to give space to young designers, because also I think that really many times the good things of young designers is that they are not contaminated, and they have fresh ideas. So really, again, as I told before, we don't need of products, we need of ideas, of concepts. After that, step by step, with a good relationship between the designer and the R&D team, we develop the product.
Great. So from like new concepts, a new vision of the consumer's usage, and obviously thinking holistically, so all the parts that are coming together.
Absolutely. Yeah. This is the great difference between to be a designer in the 80s and to be a designer today. Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Giulio. So today we're introducing 8 emergent design studios to the wider industry network. So we will watch short video portraits of each designer, and we will get to meet them individually. So let's now discover the work of the design studios, starting with Fabien Leroy.
I am Fabien Roy. I graduated in architecture and product design. I worked for 10 years as an architect before setting up my own studio. My work is focused on furniture and product design, as well as interior architecture. I come from the Swiss Jura Mountains. I'm still based there today. By living surrounded by forest, I developed strong connection with nature. So I started by working with local wood with my grandfather, and then this is how I came to product design and architecture. What makes my studio unique is my expertise in both architecture and product design. It allows me to come up with solutions that are truly holistic. For instance, I just finished a project for a castle in collaboration with Christophe Guberon. We proposed a whole interior design up to the bespoke furniture and lighting concept. The approach was based on the history of the castle and the local material already used in the building. I try to design responsibly by mixing both technology and crafts. A good example is a Bluetooth speaker I made. I used only resonance wood that is traditionally used to make violin soundboards. So I would like to cultivate my wide range of skills, which are real assets today. By blending architecture and product design, I want to develop new collaborations with furniture and lighting companies.
Hello, Fabien. Good to see you.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Great. Beautiful work, great video. So Giulio and I had a question for you. A big part of your work is based on local culture, the locally sourced materials. Why is it important for you to incorporate local craft and techniques into your work?
So, first of all, I would, instead of incorporate, I would rather say reinterpret or inspired by local crafts and cultures. As I mentioned in the video, I live surrounded by forest nature, and it's made me super sensitive to the local source material and the relationship with craftsmen. And I think given the global issues of the society today, the craftsmanship world conveyed a lot of interesting values for the design today. I think it can be how we manage local resources, how we transmit know-how, or how we develop micro networks. I think this is something interesting to move towards something more sustainable in the field of design. We should have some inspiration for that, and that's what I'm interested in this world. And for me, the interest about craft is really to transfer this heritage into a contemporary production, contemporary design. And for me, this transfer must include a certain part of innovation to be meaningful. And this can be achieved through a new way to produce things or a new way to use traditional material. And for instance, in the video where I mentioned the Bluetooth speaker I made, and this is something that I think interesting to use wood was traditionally used to make violin, and to create a new value from that wood that is almost not today exploited. And each project is set in a specific context, and the context is super important to consider when you develop something. And I think people today want to know where the material are sourced, who made the product, and what were the inspiration behind the product. So I think this is something super important to communicate the story behind the product today. And for the companies, it's also super important, and they can create value by communicating these things. So I just want to add that create something from local contexts today is something paradoxal, because you have to design for the whole world today often, but it's not a problem for me, because you have to find the right balance between local and global. And I think something designed with local inspiration can fit the global market. I'm sure of that. And the final objective is always to propose sustainable products and with a timeless design and functional design that create emotion, I would say. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a global approach, and like Giulio was saying, it's not only about creating a new product. You're really coming up with, this is part of a concept that you can also export wherever you're actually producing, because technically you could locally source the material where you would be producing it and shipping it to avoid more shipping costs and obviously pollution accordingly. Thank you very much, Fabien.
Yes. Small things, yes, Fabien. I really like a lot the respect that you have for the material, and don't miss this. That is absolutely very, very important, because I think that to do design is not only to things, to shapes, but really the good use of the material and the respect of the material, and to know very well the material is absolutely very important. And in your project, I really like a lot this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Giulio. Thank you, Fabien. Let's now discover the next video portrait of Laure Crayenbuhl.
Hello, I'm Laure Crayenbuhl, founder of a project studio, and I'm passionate about designing bespoke objects and spaces, both for temporary and long-lasting use. My story with objects actually goes back to when I was a child, traveling from one country to the next. Discovering cultures of Europe and the Middle East taught me to frame spaces with specific characteristics and personalities. The Alps chair is inspired by the Swiss farmer's chair. Handmade and with traditional joinery details, it keeps the heritage whilst bringing in comfort for long family dinners. This bespoke bedside lamp was part of a sailing yacht refit, which was quite a fun challenge. Whilst designing the furniture, we were especially mindful of details and even the hidden ones. And we had to remember that nothing would be horizontal once the boat would be sailing. The lamp has a clever ball mechanism which ensures it doesn't swivel when the boat heels. This stainless steel mirror was part of an installation for BMW Switzerland's headquarters. The distorted reflections bring some poetry and dreaminess to the showroom concept. We were surprised in a good way that just with a simple, very slight fault, we managed to get something quite crazy. When I think of the future, I look out to collaborations and commissions in the fields of brand, hospitality or museography, but also to designing objects, furniture and lighting for living and working spaces.
Hello, Laure. A great range of very different projects. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you. And you?
Very good, thank you. So your work covers interior design, product design, architecture. I know that you're working by bringing teams together. So Giulio and I, we wanted to actually understand how you find such diverse teams, and how do you make sure that these teams actually work together efficiently? If you could tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, the question of the team is actually quite a fascinating one. I actually think that the quality of projects depends more on the human relationships than on the individual competences. So I do select team members that are performant in a given area, but that are open to learn in other fields and that can adapt to the current diversity of projects. Normally, this means having a complementary team of mixed backgrounds, including graphic designers, product designers, and architects of different origins. And because I'm actually convinced that a certain diversity can help projects grow. But well, in the end, what's more important to me is that our communication is open and transparent, that questions, doubts, or also hopes are expressed at all times of projects, which sometimes leads to some last-minute changes, but that's always for the better. Well, of course, it also asks me to be quite specific regarding how the tasks are split up and what we're carrying out and which common goal we're working for. But then, well, the being active in different projects and project scales in different disciplines doesn't mean that the team is constantly changing. It also takes a lot of adaptation from our side. In my vision, a chair project or a showroom project have a lot in common, despite their uniqueness, because each project can be broken down into smaller points, each of which can be tackled individually and then put back together as a whole. Actually, most interior projects that we work on can be seen as product references. The actual project itself being made of smaller products, if we can say so, and it's a bit on a bigger scale. As long as we really do this back and forth from the small scale to the bigger scale. For example, well, in the sailing yacht refit I mentioned in the video, once the creative identity was put together and that we had a base material concept, then we actually split up the work between the establishing of new layouts, the drawing and prototyping of the architectural and furniture details, as well as the integration of all elements into 2D and 3D. But it was always very important that we maintain this back and forth and very open communication between the different ones of us working on the project.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, communication is definitely a key aspect. Thank you, Laure.
What I say, just a small thing that interesting, because each of your projects is a surprise, and this is very interesting, because I think that we have not to shock people, but we have to surprise. So bravo.
Yeah, thanks. I think if I can just add something to that, I actually think that's what I also find interesting, being able to really work on this wide variety of projects and then learning specific knowledge in every project with the manufacturers and the different people involved in the project, which actually makes it possible afterwards to build something coherent. Thank you.
Thank you, Laure. And now the video portrait of Renaud De Francesco.
My name is Renaud De Francesco and I'm a Swiss designer from Lausanne. In my studio, we love to experiment with materials and to test their limits. I grew up by a lake and mountains, and I'm fascinated to see how the sun reflects on the water and is absorbed by the mountains. One of my latest research projects is on glass. I really like glass because it's a mystical material. It can be liquid or solid, strong or fragile. I work with a lot of glass makers and a variety of techniques. We test different ondulation with a sanded and polished part to push the limit of the refraction and the reflection of the light. My work sits between craftsmanship and technological innovation, integrating conscious design. I love to analyze how light is connected to the texture of our object and how it leads them to evolve just like humans do. It all started by looking at a light bulb. Since its creation, the shape of the bulb didn't evolve. With the new LED technology, you don't need a specific shape for the glass. Curious of this observation, I work with engineers to create a new kind of bulb where the glass is used as a lampshade. We developed an integrated prism in the glass which diffuse the rays to provide direct and indirect light. This patterned bulb is not only a source of light, but also creates a real atmosphere. The spot lamp responds to the growing demands to integrate spotlights in the ceiling. With this new lamp, you can easily move the spots where you want and use the walls and the ceiling as reflectors. For the past 5 years I've been in the industry, my goal has always been to create useful products from everyday life, made to last and with smart details. I'm working with international brands on new products with different materials, and I'm looking forward to pushing the boundary of light.
Hello, Renaud. How are you doing?
Hello, Romain. Very good, and you?
Good, good. Good to see you. Impressive work. Really great video. So a question that we have for you today is basically, there are 3 key things about your ethos as a studio. You were, sharing with us that materials, human, and meaning are very central to your work. How do you balance these kind of 3 pillars into your studio, and how has this impacted your recent work?
So I think humans have a very strong connection with materials, and all our senses are impacted when you interact with materials. As a designer, our goal is to reach the limit of the materials and to test new experience with the know-how which has evolved and new techniques of manufacturing. Also, human is the center of my research, We're working with people for people. And at each stage of the project, we make great encounters that enrich us. And in my studio, we do a lot of user research also. Finally, it's important to give meaning of what we are doing and how we can improve and experience on the process in order to make it better and in a sustainable way. And as Mr. Cappellini said, we to find the right landscape for them. And the goal is to create interesting products with a positive impact. So that's why I ask myself every time if I go inside these 3 values when I develop a project. For example, in one of my latest projects, the Wavy Ways, I experiment glass with different glass makers to find the right shape for the undulation. So we test different techniques to craft this amazing material. And this undulation challenge the interaction with the user and also highlights the local craftsmanship.
Very nice.
Good.
Thank you.
Yes, and then I want to underline your attention to details, because I think that in a project, details are absolutely important. No? Ray Charles, since they were used to say that really details are the most important thing in a project, and this is absolutely true. So bravo, because I see that really they are serious projects, and there is this absolutely attention to details that today is quite important. It's not enough again to do a nice sketch, but really to work on the right proportion, and so it's quite important. So bravo, like.
Yes, it's what I tried. Thank you.
Very precise. Thank you very much, Renaud. Now let's move on to our next designer, Laure Grémion. Let's look at her video portrait now.
Hello, I'm Laure Grémion. I'm a product designer from Switzerland. My creative approach often starts with materials. I love to experiment materials. I love to challenge them, tackle the limits, and see them out of their normal context, so I can find new ways to use them. A little twist can give another dimension to a very common material. For example, LED strips are often glued to the walls. They're used as a very common material and very cheap. As you can see here, as I bend this ribbon, it creates loops and tension. In this way, a very common material can become precious and fascinating. My aim is to transform this stunning material into meaningful and playful objects. These are some other things I have done. So with very thin walls out of concrete, texture in the glass blowing process, or massive oak shaped with a CNC machine. I want my objects to make you smile or dream. In functional, there's also fun. So like my rain catcher thing that plays music with the rain for you. I'm interested in collaborations in all fields. Furniture, lighting, product. I'm keen for new challenges. So I'm excited to meet professional partners to start a new project together and make some meaningful and playful objects.
Hello, Laure. Always with a smile, Laure. Hi, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. And you? The sun is coming now, so it's good.
Thank you so much. So you love to play with materials, and basically, you were telling us that you like to challenge clients on how these materials can be used in new ways. Could you perhaps share with us some recent projects that you've worked on where you've kind of worked and reworked around these materials?
Yes, I have plenty of different projects that I'm working on that surprise me right now and that are really interesting. But maybe what I want to underline is some new things I've tried this year, and I've bought myself a 3D printer, and this was kind of a roller coaster adventure for me. Because actually I've used 3D printing for 10 years now, so with my different projects, and it's been always, I've worked on the 3D files, and then I've worked with companies that have produced the files, and yeah, so it was very easy, and I wanted to challenge myself to try to do it myself. And so I bought this not very expensive 3D printer to try it. And actually, it sounded very easy, but it was much more complicated than I expected. And actually, that was what was interesting, because it made me learn a lot of different things. So I learned, because there's a lot of parameters, like almost 100, like the speed, travel speed, temperature, everything you can parameter on this printer, and everything influence your print, and the outcome can be a fail with only one of this parameter when it's used wrongly. So it's kind of hard, and so I can say I manage this printer, and I have very funny incomes with this new technique. And so I've worked on transparency, also on flexibility, on gradients in the material, and that opened a lot of new possibilities. And I think like it's always the same with every new material that I try, even if this time it was not new, but maybe the technique is a bit different than what I've used before. And always this inspires me to make new things, and that's what's interesting with the work of a designer.
Are you hacking your 3D printer?
Yes, kind of. No, I'm not a very high-tech programmer, but yeah, I'm trying to challenge it maybe in different ways, and to use many different colors, because it's not like something that is really done in 3D printing, and I think that's very interesting.
Very nice. Thank you, Laura.
Good, Laura. So I think that today is very difficult to know, to try to understand which is the limit between design and decor. And the thing that I like in your project is that they're not only nice to look at, but they are objects that you like to see, to touch, to live with. No? And I think that this is again another important thing, because sometimes people, they think to objects, and okay, they like to see objects in a collection of a museum or through the windows of the store, but for them it's difficult to get in touch. There is not enough feeling. Then I think of your project that there is this feeling. When I see your product, I like to be in contact and to touch that. And this is quite important in contemporary design. Bravo.
Yeah, thank you very much for this this quote, because it's really what I'm trying to do. It's not something I don't like to make just beautiful shapes. It's not something that I want to do. As I really want to work on the function and on the materials and the feeling and the relationship you have with your objects. So
good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. So, Giulio, we've had the pleasure to see some really great work from our designers just now. Wanted to ask you a little bit your opinion about, obviously, design-related things. What do you think makes design innovative these days? It's a bit of a big question, but to you, what is kind of like innovative in design these days?
Yeah, but first of all, I want to say that we saw at the moment for designers and some projects, and the nice and interesting thing is that all these projects are really very, very different, no? And this is quite important, because sometimes people, they say, wow, everything has been done in design, there are no more new things to think or to design, and always say, no, there are millions of interesting new projects to do. Because also, today, I think that to do design and to do projects is not only just again to design a table, a chair, or a sofa, but really there is design everywhere and in everything, no? From a computer to a glass, to a car, to a cell phone. So again, the range of design that you can do is absolutely very, very important. But I think that, so this is the most important thing from my point of view, is that each designer has to defend his own DNA. And here, for example, I saw 4 different designers with a strong DNA. And this is very important, because you will see now more and more with get in touch with industries, with brands, and so for sure. when we think and when we do a new product, we have to take care of the market. Sometimes some products, maybe they're successful in the market in a few days or few months, and some other products, they take years. But, you know, I always say that we don't produce fresh pasta. So if a design object is good, sometimes it starts in the market after years. In the history of design, there are some incredible products that at the moment are really long sellers that at the beginning of their career really nobody wants because they were too much, they were really so innovative.
Yeah.
No, I think to the Servio of Achille Castiglioni, I think to the Tizio Land from Zapper from Artemide, that really when they entered in the market, they were so innovative that really people, they were just a little bit afraid about those objects. Now they are really super long sellers after years and years. So again, I think that for sure, to defend your own DNA is absolutely important. I think that a designer has really to be coherent, has to go in one direction, not 1 year in this direction, another year in another direction. We have really to work, what I say, on long sellers and not best sellers. Okay, maybe the same object can, after years, change maybe the color, the texture, and so. But I think that today, for the end consumer to see in the market a product after 5, 10, 20 years is a sort of guarantee, because people say, wow, if this product is still in the market, it's really because it's really good. And second, I think that, you know, when you are going to do a new product, you have to do something better what you made 5 or 10 years before, because this is again very, very important. No? What does it mean? It means that really innovation is really very, very, very important. Today is the most important thing in design. And when I speak about innovation, I'm not only speaking about shapes. Okay, shapes is something, is a percentage of the project. But really, I think to new materials, I think to new texture, new production systems. I think also to the use of the new materials, of the eco materials, and this is absolutely something very, very important. I always say that again, today there is a new way to make design. Maybe you have to start from the end to arrive to the beginning, because in the past, maybe, you know, the eco-friendly material, they were not so good, they were very, very expensive, and so today really, so there was a difference between the research and between the industrial production. Now, I think that more and more, I think that the two things are overlapping, and because, you know, it's real that we are destroying our world, so to really design in a conscious way, it means to take care also of this. That is not only just to use materials, but also to take care of the right production systems and so and so. And again, this is, I'm back to what I was telling before, that to be a designer today is very different than to be a designer in the 60s or in the 80s. Not the role of design today is more and more complex. That's why I say do less projects, but do really strong projects. So again, at the end, I think that really to be current and to be innovative are the two most important things. I know that at the beginning of your career, it takes time. But as I always say, you know, if you do good things, then people, they will understand and they will discover you. Absolutely. And sometimes, you know, when I go teaching in some universities, maybe people, young students, they say, wow, in 6 months, we want to become like Morrison or Stark. And they say, no, you take years, and you have to work day and night. But again, if you like what you're doing, and passion in our job is absolutely the most important thing, because as I always say, we don't need of many words to explain what we are doing, because if we spend more than 30 words to explain our project, is because we are not 100% convinced. So we have the possibility to show to the people what we think that's doing objects. People, they can like or they cannot like, but at the end, no, this is our DNA.
Yeah.
That's it.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, innovation also, I think innovative design is probably also a mindset that you have when you start your career, you know, like really pushing towards that. In terms of, I mean, going back to Switzerland now, so I know that you know Switzerland pretty well.
Yeah.
And obviously Swiss design, you know, quite a fundamental field to talk about. What do you think, in your perspective, makes Swiss design so special?
I think that really there is, I think that the purity and of Swiss design is really very, very important, because when I see just a project designed by a Swiss designer, or the global approach anyway of the Swiss design, I see that there is, again, as I already told before, a big respect of the materials, the use of the right technologies, and also this idea, this concept that design has to be really very simple, very pure, and so and so. And this is really a mental process that is absolutely not easy. That means in a project is more and more easy and simple to add, instead of take away, and just arriving a beautiful, simple project. No, and I think that this is really, when I think to Swiss design, I think that this is the main element. No, because again, design is not fashion, and design, okay, maybe also in design things are changing. No, again, maybe we have new materials, we have new palettes of color, we have a new concept or a new approach to design. But at the end, really, if a project is good, I don't take care if 1 year it's yellow and after 5 years became red and after 5 years again became black. No, but and I think that, so the idea, looking to the Swiss design, is when I see the objects, is that again they are not fashionable objects, but they are really long sellers. And there is this approach that I think is a very serious approach to design. And I think that today is what makes the difference between doing a sort of exercise and to do real design. To do real design today is not easy. To do a real project is not something that you can do in a few hours. No, it takes, as I told before, time. It takes months, sometimes years. Sometimes you start to develop a project, and after you are not 100% convinced, so you stop, and after you restart, and so and so. So it's a long-term process, but at the end, I see that normally the project on which you suffer more at the end is the most successful in the market. So really, this idea to be really very focused, no, on a project is something absolutely very important, and think that this is one of the main points of the Swiss design.
Consistency.
Yes, absolutely, because people, they really need of real products, not of something that is okay today and not tomorrow.
Very true. Thank you, Giulio, for those
Welcome.
insights. Let's now explore the next and final 4 designers. So starting with the presentation of Luca Gorissi.
I'm Luca. I'm a designer based in Geneva, and my atelier is called Vevik. I think one way of looking at my work is perhaps as a reflection of my Swiss and Swedish design education. Because I think on one side there's a certain Scandinavian sensibility to it, with these kind of essential, almost minimal forms, that then perhaps are imbued with a more Swiss sense of this quiet, understated luxury. For example, I've had this immense fascination with aviation ever since I was a kid, and I find that it tends to creep its way into most of my work. For example, the drink trolley I did, it's actually based on a classic airline trolley. It's reinterpreted as a much more delicate and kind of precious objet for the home. It can also be inspired by materials or processes, like with the paravent that I'm working on at the moment, which is made in this very traditional, almost forgotten kind of hand-woven way. But then the carbon fiber strips we use come from an aviation industry supplier, and the finishing process for it is quite high-tech. So I kind of like this coalescence of 2 almost opposite worlds to try and create something new. I would love to collaborate with companies or people who share this passion for creating conscious, well-made, and hopefully also a bit special and long-lasting things.
Hello, Luca. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good to see you. So great video portraits. Luca, you have quite a minimal, elegant aesthetic. And what we wanted to know about your work is basically where do you draw most of your inspiration? Where do you know, which kind of designers do you get your inspiration from, or that you kind of admire?
I think with inspiration, it's always a bit of a tricky question because at least for me, I never know where it's going to come from next, or when or if. So it's a bit difficult to say, but I don't know. It could be something very simple, like just a material or a technique, or a combination of the two, and that kind of then takes you somewhere new. But apart from that, I think, as I mentioned in the video, I'm a bit of an aviation geek, so that's something that's kind of always around. And I think the reason why I'm kind of drawn to it is, in a way, it's a very function-driven world, but at the same time, there's this kind of intrinsic beauty to it. But it feels almost, you know, like a byproduct of this drive for efficiency or performance. So I think this relationship is something I'm quite interested in, and in a way, it's also a reason why I have this, like, I don't know, a special appreciation and love for example, for these, you know, those like wonderful, crazy old Citroens, or the work of Jakob Jensen for B&O, or the buildings of John Bossen. Maybe it's a bit of a strange group, but I think in their own way, they're all kind of, you know, pared back to their very essence in this like very focused, very strict way. But then at the same time, there's something that's, you know, there's something very visceral and sometimes almost poetic about them. And there's a certain sense of occasion of how they make you feel, and the way that you interact with them. Mm-hmm. So yeah, perhaps it's more these kind of tangible intangibles that I find inspiring.
I see. Somehow streamlining your aesthetic to, I mean, obviously aviation, if you think about aviation, you've got to make sure that it's, you know, functional, and that it has, like, there are quite a lot of constraints. So there's a certain streamline of your design approach that I guess you probably focus on to some extent.
Maybe not streamlining, but it's more trying to come to the essence of the project or the idea. It's more like taking it to, like, what's the basic idea behind it, and just it's more about taking away than
adding, which
streamlining.
Yeah, sure.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier.
Absolutely. And you know, Luca, when I see to your products, I think that they are absolutely what they call timeless projects. That means nothing less, nothing more, but creating a very, very elegant object. And I think that this is, again, is a mental process that is quite important, that it takes time. You have to exercise a lot, and wait, really, to create this pure and timeless object is quite important. Bravo. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luca. So now let's look at the video portrait of Alexandra Gerber.
I'm Alexandra. I run my own studio, Alexandra Gerber Studio, in London. I grew up between, like, farming and industrial manufacturing. That started my interest in making things really with your hands and the machines around. My projects tend to start with a simple idea, but I like to execute it with interesting materials or new manufacturing processes in order for it to be progressive. I like this idea of displacement and recontextualization of manufacturing processes that come from another field, and then I bring them into furniture or lighting or more everyday products. So with the corner light, what I like about it is that it's an unusual typology. There isn't many lights that go into corners. So the shelf started from a very simple idea. I wanted to make a shelf that could exactly match your content. That's how I developed the up shelf that is using aluminium extrusion together with a joint I borrowed from the window industry. it remains all very simple visually because it's all one. In the end, it's a fairly elegant object, really. What's really nice is that when you work with brands that have a lot of knowledge about something and you can just push them even further within what they are doing. So that's why I'm really also interested to work with brands or industrial partners that are very specialized in one thing. I also develop a lot of product within the studio for which I would look for industrial partners or investors to help me take these products to life.
Hello, Alexandra. Good to see you. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you.
So, Alexandra, like we've seen in the video, much of your work involves repurposing existing technologies, materials that you're kind of like rethinking and in a different way. So with this in mind, how important is like reusing, upcycling, and adaptability in general in your work?
Yeah, so I guess in the first place, the reason why I choose these technologies or these materials and I repurpose them is because they are often innovative and sustainable alternatives or a smart solution. So I take them and I apply them to something else, but also because the factories that produce them are themselves fairly advanced in like managing their own recycling, their own waste, recycling their own materials. So at the heart of the materials themselves I use, there is a big part of upcycling, reusing their own materials for the factories and so on. But on another way, I also recently worked on a backstage mirror for the fashion label Alix. Mm-hmm. And there we really wanted to have as little impact by making this product. So we used only off-the-shelf components to make them. Mm. That was interesting because we had like zero waste in terms of making things. We just took off-the-shelf components and put them together. And this also means that you can make a product anywhere in the world, which links back to like a few conversations we already had. Every parts can be replaced and repaired. And I think that's really important going forward, that we make products that can be easily dismantled, repaired, changed. But there is another, your question reminds me something else. Back in the time when I was at Tom Dixon, I remember Floss approached Tom and said, oh, we have this, the Castiglione light, the Arco. Yeah. They had this like big block of marble and they remove a tube out of the marble, the place where you're supposed to place the broom to move the lamp. Mm-hmm. And they asked us to come up with an idea. What could we do with that stick of marble they remove? And I thought that was like really nice to think that you could also work with the waste of brands to make new products. And I think this is something we should really look into, how we can work with also the waste of our own industry. So, yeah, I mean, I guess it's all very important.
Full circle, right?
Yeah, exactly.
From the design to the waste.
Good. Exactly. It's not just sustainable. It's like, how can we really use everything?
Anyway, Alexandra, looking to your projects, you can understand that really to do design today is something serious, no? And this I appreciate a lot this, because really I can feel the essence of design. And again, to do, as I always say, no, to do design today is not easy, but it's something fantastic, beautiful. And the idea that really you can use and reuse material and to work in a clever way, I think that this means to have new ideas. This means to work on innovation, no? And I really think that you are on the right way, brother.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. Let's now discover the world of Miguel Lauper with his video portrait.
I'm Miguel Lauper. I'm an industrial design and artist here in Zurich, Switzerland. And I founded the office Büro Lauper, which is a practice where I focus on industrial design and interior architecture. Originally, I made an apprenticeship as an electrician and worked in the technical field from a young age. I combined that with my passion for the arts and music, and I believe that this is what gives meaning to my work, this combination of technology and poetry. The objet sonore, it's a sound machine which is controlled only by touching its ceramic surface. It has an artifact character and really wants to advance our perception of electronic devices without losing any function. With my objects, I really want to provide a new perspective on the world and create new typologies and bring innovation to the market. For me, products should be one, rich in content, meaning they should be meaningful. They should be relevant in context, meaning they should adapt to economical and environmental needs. And nevertheless, they should also be unapologetic in function and appearance. The Lumière Virante, it's a puristic light fixture which essentially combines the three essential layers of light. It's the function, the biology and the emotional perception equal in one lamp. I found a way to adjust the electromagnetic spectrum. It's very technical, but what it means essentially is that you get the super high quality light which has a positive impact on your health and your well-being. I really look forward to find new partners or manufacturers and work on interesting projects with them.
Hello, Miguel.
Hi, Romain. Hi, Mr. Cappellini.
Hello.
Good to see you. From the video and from the time we spent together, you clearly have very different influences for your work, ranging from the arts, from music, and also obviously your strong technical design knowledge. So what we wanted to understand a little bit better was what kind of like inspired you in the first place to begin experimenting around lighting in particular.
So yeah, for me, I started to look at light, and like Mr. Cappellini as well said, to look at light from different perspectives or disciplines like philosophy or the arts, but also from an engineering and functional point of view, and to find similarities which are described by these different disciplines. I really enjoyed that. And this alternating perspective in turn led me to really get a wholesome or more wholesome understanding of light. And with this feeling pregnant somehow for the Renaissance is like what really inspired me to incorporate that knowledge into the Lumière Virante, for example. So all these different perspectives and this holistic view of objects that surround us and requirements that we have to them.
Mm. And also something you were mentioning to me, the sort of the importance of the light in general, and how, you know, the light and its effect on the body, on us. And we've spent so much time indoors in the last year and a half that
absolutely
quite an important topic.
Absolutely. So, for example, with a bed, we are aware of an impact that a bed can have in our lives, our sleep is. But I think what we do not have is the awareness of the impact of artificial lights on us, and especially now during the lockdown, where we spent like days without going outside or whatever. We were exposed to this artificial light, and I really started to do research and experiment with light, and I was made aware through that
things that are really that really have a negative influence on us about the artificial light, and I really wanted to make a difference there and improve our lives. So.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miguel.
Miguel, looking at your project, I want to underline another very important thing, that is the interaction between the design object and the people. And this is again very, very important, no? Because normally when you use a design object, we interact with them. And so this relation is again very, very important, and mostly like in your case with the light, because today really the light is I always say that in an interior, light represents more than 50% of the general atmosphere. So this, again, this interaction is very, very important, because I think that the people have to feel free to be in a real good mood with objects. They don't have absolutely to be afraid of design objects. And so this sort of really feeling due to the right interaction is very important. And this is something that I see in your projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Miguel. Last but not least, let's have a look at the video portrait of Emilien Jory.
I am Emilien Jory. I'm French, based in Lausanne, Switzerland. I founded my studio in 2019, focused on product and lighting design. I like challenging everyday objects, especially rethinking the way we interact with them by creating experience, make it surprising, emotional and practical. I like to infuse poetry into my design and create objects that transport the user through an immersive atmosphere. A good example is Cane, a flexible lighting system designed for restaurants, supported from the IKEA Swiss Foundation. The idea is to accompany the customer during the meal. The waiters welcomes the customer at the entrance of the restaurant and guide them to the table. Then he hangs the cane on a structure which is above the table, and then the light appears. The meal can then begin. Another specificity of my studio is to challenge and revisit craft techniques. For instance, the cocktail set width is inspired by the gesture of the glass blower. I have seen some similarities between the movement of the craftsman when he produces the pieces and the one of the bartender when he's making cocktail. So I created a cocktail set tools based on rotative movements that offer a new poetic way of doing cocktails. In the future, I aim to find new partners to develop together new experiences for people with spaces and objects.
Hello, Emilien.
Hello, Romain.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Great work, fantastic. A number of your pieces actually are connecting the craft of how they were made to the way the user should kind of like interact with them. So what do you think is important for the users to not forget about how the products are actually made?
By providing interaction, I think that to the user in the same way that products are made, I give the possibility to people to still be conscious of how objects are produced. In this sense, people could be aware of simple principles like mechanical or practical. In fact, there is always a constriction behind the button that people press to something works. For example, the kind of lighting system that we have seen in the video is not only a unique experience that the user lives, is also the wish of showing the principle of electricity connection and how lights could appear. In this system, the user can understand it's because there is two thin metal copper that's guide him to connect with two other conductive parts that make the lamp turn on. And I think also that the crafts offer possibilities to create new interaction that is make it possible because we are inspired by them and people want to know what is the path of the creation. As with cocktail sets that I created, I was inspired by the beauty of the glass blower gestures And since then, I decided to link the movements of the bartender when he's making cocktails and the one of the craftsman when he blowed the pieces. And also, the know-how is a part of us. It's our culture and our history. And for me, we need to safeguard our heritage. And by revisiting the know-hows in a contemporary way, I want to participate to this.
Okay, thank you, Emilia.
Good, Emilian. Your projects, I think that they are clever projects, and also I think that they make also people happy and they make smiling and dreaming. And this is again something very important in the role of design, because doing design is not only to do beautiful and useful products, but also really to make people happy and to make people smiling, like the great Achille Castiglioni was used to say. So I think that also this is another very important concept in design, and I see this concept in your project. So good, bravo.
Thank you very much.
Emilio. Thank you, Emilio. Thank you, everyone, for introducing your work. I would now like to invite all the designers to join Giulio Cappellini on the virtual stage. Hi, everyone. It's good to see you all. So Giulio, actually, I mean, you know, your history of supporting emerging and young talents and collaborating with them is really something that is quite essential and part of the DNA of Cappellini. So basically, considering that you've been involved in selecting these 8 great Swiss designers, I wanted to ask you what you actually find particularly interesting and promising within the work of this great group of designers.
But you know, I think that again, as I already told before, in the difference, because really these 8 designers, they are doing products, but really in a very different way, and this is absolutely very important. Also, if again there is a sort of common DNA that is the respect of design, because on one side, okay, a few minutes ago was saying that really with design we have to make people smiling and dreaming, but on the other side, really to do design is something very, very serious, no? And today, as I always say, to do design and to work on innovation is not easy. Because in the past, for example, in the early 80s, no, to do design, it was just to make a nice sign, and after the R&D team of the different companies will take care just starting from that idea, that really concept to arrive to a product. No? So many times in that period, just the design, it was just a sign on a piece of paper or maybe on a towel that at the restaurant, and after starting from that became design. Now I think that really things are changed, because as I told before, no, when you do a project, you have to think to the world, no? Because really a successful product today is something that you can sell everywhere in the world. Also, if really selling a product everywhere in the world, it means anyway really to take care of the local culture and so on. So not to change, but to adapt the product in terms of presentation also to the different local cultures. So the product is always the same, because the goal of contemporary design today is to sell again worldwide the product, but maybe the way that you are going to introduce and to present the object is completely different. In Hong Kong is different than in New York. In New York is different than in Milan or in London, and so and so. But at the end, so I think that what for me is very important today, so really serious project. And again, this is the right way and the right and contemporary way to go on. And I think that most of these projects, I can say, okay, maybe with some small details and so, but they're ready for production. And this is something absolutely very important. And I have to say that this is something that I see more and more in the young generation of designers. So not only nice ideas, nice concept, and that's it, but real products. And I think that this is very important, because I think that to do a good product today, it means to know very well materials, to know very well the technologies, the production system, and so on. So I don't think just sometimes people, they say, okay, I draw an object and after we decide which material to use, which technology to use, which production system to use. Absolutely. I think that at the beginning, you have to study which is the right production system, which is the right material to use, and so, and after you design, not because, you know, Miss was used to say that every material, natural or artificial, is good if you know very well and you can use in a proper way. And today, I think that this is absolutely very important. So again, you know, mostly at the beginning of the career, now this approach with the company, with the brand is not so easy. But again, I think that if the project of the product is really something serious, I think that this is absolutely something very, very important. And so, on the other side, next step is, again, always defending your DNA, to really understand which are the real needs of the company. Because maybe a product can be good for a company and not good for another company. A designer can be good for a company and not good for another company. And again, you know, I think that this is another very important thing. It's very important for the same designer, maybe not to change the approach to design, but to try to understand is one thing if in this moment I'm doing a project for the company A, is another thing if now I'm doing a project for the company B, because also, you know, maybe is also a different approach, and this is also very important and interesting exercise, maybe to work for a small size company or to a huge company, because again, it's completely different when you have an object and you have to produce, I don't know, 500 pieces in a year, is another story if you have to produce 20,000 pieces in a year, no? And again, so this is something that make the relationship between the designer and the company very, very important. I don't believe in designers that work with so many companies, with 100 companies, no. Because really to do a right project for a company, it's very important to know very well what the company can do, what the company cannot do, which are the technologies. So it's really a huge relationship. And I think that if this feeling, this relationship is good, is up to, it takes time, but you can arrive to do the good product. If the relationship is not so good, okay, maybe you can do a product, but we don't need of nice project. We need of beautiful and innovative project. So coming back to the project that I saw today, yes, I saw a lot of innovation, a lot of ideas, and again, as I told at the beginning, it's because today in the approach to don't need of products, we need of ideas, and it's quite important. And I have to say that you know, I can say that I saw mature projects, and again, this is something very important because you see, looking to this project, also if they are very different, they are not projects, there is not something that they create in a few hours, no. But there is really a mental process, a very complex mental process on the back. So I have to say that really bravo, and you know, I'm used to see a lot of different projects worldwide, and sometimes I have to say that I'm not telling this because I'm here right now. Sometimes it's really difficult also to make a selection or to choose some nice project, some beautiful projects. Here I saw really very, very strong approach to design, and this for me is again very, very important. You have absolutely to defend your own identity. So for me it's very important when I do project to understand if I'm working with Fabienne or with Laure or with Miguel or with Emilienne or with Alexandre. For me that is absolutely the most important thing. After that, maybe the design, the project of all these different designers, they can live in the same catalog, but each project speaks the language of the designer that designed it.
Absolutely. And I mean, going sort of following this, what you're sharing with us, Giulio, and also based on, you know, the initiative we're here today for, which is for these designers to be able to meet with industry players, things they can't do, you know, physically because there's no trade show, there's no events. So here we're like trying to bring the community together and obviously getting these great designers to connect with brands and companies. What do you think, or do you have perhaps any advice about how they could make sure they enter in positive collaborations with brands? What do you think they should potentially do or think about to make sure?
I think that, again, as we already told before, really these platforms are absolutely today very, very important, because more and more, unfortunately, we are working in a virtual way, and I think that, okay, for the first approach, the platform is perfect. When you have to develop a prototype, it became sometimes difficult, no? Because during the lockdown last year, for me, it was a disaster, not to try to communicate with the designer that. And also I have to say that I'm used to do that, because when I work with the Nendo that is in Japan, or some other designers that are in North America, and so really most of the relationship is a virtual relationship. But at the end, maybe when you have to check an object or a prototype, it's very important to touch and to be there. But I think that, so at the beginning, this platform are absolutely very important. The most important thing is to explain the project in a very simple way, and also to be modest, because sometimes, I see some designers that they say, okay, I made this chair, for me it's beautiful, you can sell 100,000 per year, and we became in 6 months rich and famous, and I always say, okay, but look, this chair Achille Castiglioni made 50 years ago, so to know the history of design sometimes is quite important. Anyway, I think so, to explain really project in a very simple way, and really, and to be ready also to adapt the project to the company, because maybe, you think that your project is perfect in white, maybe the company can tell you, okay, but for some markets, it's okay also if we do in black, and so this is part of the design process, and this is absolutely normal. But really to be the very, very simple, very, very easy in showing the project. Anyway, I saw, for example, the short movie that we saw today. They are perfect, because really you can, in few words, you can see the essence of the project. I don't like, as I already told before also, when sometimes people, they spend 2 hours before to show you something, because they speak about the history of design, they speak about Napoleon Bonaparte, and after you are there and say, wow, I want to see your project, that's it. And after we can go ahead.
And we've been working actually also quite hard on, on summarizing your ideas to make sure that, the essence of what you're trying to communicate is shared. But let's bring everyone back on stage, because it would be really great from you guys to hear, what your inspiration, what's your motivation in collaborating, with the brands and companies that are part of the Medelhan's network. Anyone wants to perhaps jump and share some thoughts, or if you have perhaps a question for Giulio Cappellini about, like the ins and outs of the industry. Anyone? Yeah, Laure Grémion.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you for all what you said. That really resonates with what I'm thinking, and it's nice to have it put in words by you, because it's sometimes hard to put words on your thoughts, and I think it's really relevant what you're saying about designers that speak a lot and speak about Napoleon Bonaparte and everything. And I think what is essential is really the concept of the idea, and if it's explained in a simple way, I think it's the most important. Thank you for that.
I totally agree with you. Yes. Also, thinking to your projects are really very physically something, as I told you before, that you like to see and to touch, and so. But anyway, the language of the image is absolutely very important. I always say that, speaking different languages, maybe, okay, Chinese people, they cannot understand English people, and so, but with the language of image and the language of design is an international language, So I think that really that is for me the most important thing, that really we really can show what we think doing things, and that is quite important because everyone can understand really the design language. And that, speaking also about design, depends always from which part of the world you look at the design product. For example, no, if we are in Europe, looking to Indian objects, we say they are ethnic or African objects. And they say that for African people or maybe Indian people, looking to European products, they say they are ethnic because they are not part of their culture. But I have to say that today, thanks really to the new platforms, thanks to the new way to communicate, really, again, the global culture is really growing a lot. And the thing that I like more in design is this sort of contamination of different languages. And today is really something very, very important. And I think when you do projects, you have to take care of this, because when they ask which is the trend of today, I always say the new trend is the freedom of the end consumer to mix different products designed by different designers, produced maybe in different parts of the world and maybe in different periods. I always say that, we have, looking at the history, we have some great designers that are all, for all of us, really father of design. When you think to the home studio of Rain Charins of the 50s, really they were really 100 years ahead of all the others, because looking to their place where they live, where they are used to work, they already mixed this sort of, there was already this cultural contamination, because you can see a very contemporary lounge chair designed by them that was designed 70 years ago, and today is more contemporary than 70 years ago, but mixed with some cushion coming from Morocco, some carpets coming from India. So this is the real freedom in design. I don't believe when you see these sort of images where these houses where everything Savadek. After that, for sure, one house can be more decorated, and other homes can be more minimal, and so. But again, you have to think. So when you create an object, really, the success of a product is that can work in in many different architectural environment, and it can work really in residential or in really contract places. And again, these most of the projects that I saw today, they're so pure, so simple, that really can really easily enter in different architectural environment. And this is something, when you think to the most successful product in the history of design, they are really successful because they are beautiful everywhere you put them, also if you put in the middle of the street.
Very true. I think Lord Triangle wanted to say something.
Yeah, I was, hello again. I was jumping in back on what you just asked about brands and manufacturers. And well, just after what Mr. Cappellini just said before, I also think that this patchwork of, in the end of projects of different objects you have in your interior also have a lot to do with the different inspirations you find throughout the different collaborations with brands. And that's also what I find fascinating, being able to collaborate with big and smaller brands, and then learning a lot about their specificities and being able to inject these afterwards in the coming up projects.
Yeah, I think that the relationship with their director, between you and their director and the R&D team of the owner of the company is absolutely very, very important, because, again, sometimes, you have to use different technologies, you have to use different materials, and so really, to have a strong relationship is absolutely very important. And I don't believe also today, as I told already before, sometimes we have to do in a virtual way this sort of connection, but really to follow your project during the product development is absolutely very, very important, because you can understand why maybe you need to do some changes. You can understand maybe why you have to go in one direction instead of another direction, and so. Again, that doesn't mean to change the spirit, the concept of your product, but really to try to do a product that really can fit very well into the production system of a company. And this relationship is really the secret of success. and it takes time. And I see that, for example, normally when I started a new relationship with the designer, I never tell to him or to her, I need a table, a chair, or a sofa, but I always say, look at the Cappellini catalog and try to do something that fits into the catalog. After that, with the relationship is really growing a lot, but we do projects for the next 3, 5, or more years, like I do with the Morrison, with the Burulek, with Nendo, and so with Newson, and really again, sometimes I understand what you have an idea for you is very important, maybe to see quite soon in the market, but you have to take your time. For example, with Jasper, with Morrison, we introduced this year one product on which we were working for 3 years, and we were always ready, more or less close to the end, and Jasper was not convinced, so we have to restart from the beginning. And again, this is another very important thing. Before to enter a product where you enter in the market, you have really to be 100% convinced cause of that product, because you have to defend that product for all your life. And so this is quite important.
Yeah, it is defining. I think Laure Grémion wanted to add something else.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to what you said, because you're saying it like it's a constraint for designers to have modifications on their design, but I think it's actually something that is enriching the project, and I think the collaboration with the brand is very it makes the project much more interesting than what you can do on your own with the know-how of the company and their know-how of the market and the customers and everything. I think it makes a whole new dimension to the project, and I think that's what makes it interesting in the end. It's not just an idea, but it's something that can be implemented in a context, in a commercial context, in a brand context, and I think that's makes it interesting, and it's not a shame to maybe lose the first concept of the idea. So
anyway, the thing that I can say that I know personally some of the art director of the owner of some companies that are in the Medelhan platform, and I have to say that these people are really open and they are looking for new concept and new people, and so this is something that is quite important for Italian companies, that most of them are always open to take their own risk and always looking to new people and to new ideas. So I think that step by step, something will happen.
Hopefully.
Laure, I think this discussion could probably last for a long time, and I really hope we'll have the opportunity to all meet, together in real life in September, potentially with Giulio. But Laure, you wanted to add something perhaps to wrap up?
Yeah, probably just about the physical and virtual parts, which I do think, as Mr. Cappellini was saying before, that despite all these physical meetings and part of developments that can be physical, I still also do believe quite deeply in in a couple of physical encounters, also to see things, and sometimes to help go a bit further than all the let's say language and email, etc., barriers that happen through the virtual. So it's true that touching things and seeing people live also does do a great deal to get projects through, yeah.
That is true. And also there is another interesting thing that means we see, for example, presenting the objects, the products in a virtual way, that really is sometimes it's really very, very different than to present in a real way. No? For example, I was just speaking 2 days ago with a very good friend of mine, Rossana Orlandi, that she works always, she has a beautiful gallery here in Milan, and she always work with avant-garde and so on. And so during this year, during this last period, she worked a lot with Instagram and so. She saw that, for example, they are starting because the same object, in some colors, is really super attractive. In other colors, is less and less attractive. The number of likes of the same object, if it's red or if it's yellow, there is a huge difference. And also another important thing is the way you show the object, no? Because, when you see a chair, in reality, like the chair on which we are seated, okay, you can turn around and so, no? And to show an object in a virtual way, sometimes it changes a lot if you show just in front, on the side, and so and so. And really, again, anyway, this is part of the communication, but it's something really very, very important. It's a new exercise. It's something that till 2 years ago, okay, we were just doing pictures for a nice catalog, and that's it. Today, also the way, and I'm back to what I was saying at the beginning, that this is again part to do design. The way we present design is in a virtual way is absolutely very, very important.
It's kind of part of the new way to communicate. It's a new tool that we need to adapt to. And, you know, there's an essence of the discussions that can be really led online. And that's what we're doing today. So it's a matter of understanding how can we actually integrate this in a constructive way rather than just doing it because we have to do it. You see what I mean? I think that's kind of like also a little bit part of the question around digital, which is a very key thing.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to have to thank you all for your time and your energy today. Thank you to Medelhan for hosting the event. I believe that we can all of us warmly thank Pro Helvetia in particular. Thank you, Helen Mugli, for this incredible opportunity and the support of Swiss Design. So based on matching criteria and industry discussions, Medelhan has been organizing one-to-one meetings with important industry players for each of you, each of the design studios. Fabrizio, if you don't mind just showing the slide with some of the companies that have already said that they were very interested and actually were going to be participating in the meeting. So among these companies, we have Compasso d'Oro Prize winners and brands that have worked with famous designers like Philip Stark or Joe Ponti. So there's really quite a lot of amazing opportunities that are going to happen beyond this event. Today is a way to spend time together, to discuss, to introduce each other, but obviously the story keeps going. And we'll be in touch, obviously, with the designers and the Medelhan team to facilitate these virtual meetings coming forward. For any brands or professionals who were in attendance today and would be interested in meeting with the designers, please get in touch via medelhan.com and send us your request. We'll be there to answer your questions and to introduce you to these great designers. On my end, it's been a pleasure to moderate this event. I've been really also very pleased and glad to spend some time with you guys in the past few months. So thank you for your time and your patience with me. And yeah, I mean, it's a goodbye for now, and hopefully we'll see each other in real life very soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.
See you soon.
Thank you.